right?
No, not deployment side. Actually, before going for deployment, they will call our endpoint to check whether it's
Okay,
status pass or fail. So status pass or fail is based upon their counts. So they are storing those count data, check marks count, and there is a separate table. So they are storing it there, and we are fetching the data and we are checking the counts. So based upon that, we are allowing them. So we have written the
okay,
logic for
so
that.
yeah. So coming to the technical skills, you have like Java 8 and Spring Boot, REST and microservices, right?
Yes, yes.
And even Hibernate also you worked.
Yeah, Spring JPA mostly we have worked. So internally, it is calling Hibernate calls also.
Okay, yeah, good to hear. Yeah. Hi, Naresh. Uh, we have Darjit here.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, sir.
Yeah, hello,
Yeah, hi.
Naresh. So are we good to
Just,
proceed, Naresh? Anything you want to validate and verify?
yes, yes. Just a second. Devjit, could you please look at cam?
Yeah, thank you, Naresh. Yeah, we've just done with the introduction, so we'll get started with the technical skills evaluation. Darjit, are you okay?
Yes, yes, sure.
Yeah. Sure. So you mentioned that you worked on JDK 8, right? So the Java 8 features you have implemented and whenever it is required, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. You might be using that streams part of Java 8, right? So
Yes,
what
yes.
is the difference between yeah, traditional collections in Java and then the streams which is introduced in JDK 8?
Yeah, actually, with the help of streams, it streamlines the process of implementing the functionality. So basically, in the past ways, so we were have writing multiple for loops and we were writing multiple if statements to initiate the process. So actually, the whole logic writing takes a lot of lines of code, and there are a lot of redundant lines of code also that can be removed. And to resolve that issue, the streams came up in Java 8. So it reduces a lot of lines of code. Actually, boilerplate code is reduced, and it directly works upon the collection objects, and it gives with the help of terminal operation, we can directly print it as well. We can directly return it as well. So there are a lot of functionalities involved with streams. So it actually streamlines the process, and it is faster actually.
So what is the use of default methods?
Yeah, so after Java, it actually default method came into picture in case of interface. So there were issues like if multiple classes implementing an interface, and if there is like one more method which has been implemented extra, so it disturbs all the classes. So to avoid that issue, default method has come into picture so that if there is any other class that we want to implement that, they can directly implement that. So other classes will not be impacted.
So even you have heard of use of this functional interfaces also, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so can we extend any other interface in this functional interface?
If that interface contains abstract method, then we can't extend that interface because functional interface contains only one abstract method. But if that interface contains default and static method, then we can extend that interface.
So have you used any of the design patterns while you were working on your applications?
Yeah, we have basically made use of singleton and factory design patterns.
So coming to the factory design patterns, like can you explain the business scenario where you were used that factory and implemented the design pattern?
Yeah, so basically in our scenarios, we were having multiple calls. So where we are checking the instance of it, and then we are returning the object of that class. So there are multiple. First, we are creating the interface which contains the methods. Okay, so we are writing that abstract methods within that, and there are multiple classes. That is implementing that interface. So in that scenarios, there were like multiple times the same business, same method is being called with a different set of logic. So there is separate classes written for that, which will subclass it and it will write their own logic, but the method name and declaration part is same. So in that scenario, we are implementing the factory method, factory class, and with help of factory class, we are passing the reference of it, like which type you want. So based upon the type, we are matching it, like whether the type is an instance of that class or not. Then we are returning the object for that particular class. So like that we are returning.
Okay, so have you used JMS in any of your projects in the previous?
Messaging system actually.
Yeah, Java messaging services.
No, I haven't got chance actually.
Okay, okay, no issues, fine. So, you might have heard JVM and right. So, what are the different types of memory allocation done by JVM?
Uh, Actually, there are like one is class loader is there, one is method area, one is heap memory area is there, one stack area is there. So whenever the flow gets started and the reference variables are getting created, so those references and the variable data are being stored in the stack, but the reference to that is pointing to heap memory. So in heap memory, it contains a reference to those variables, as well as when we are creating a new object, those data is being stored in the heap memory. So whenever the flow gets over, the stack will be empty, but the reference will be there in the heap memory. And there will be like a garbage collector will keep on checking that if there is any reference pointing to that particular object in the heap memory or not. So it will do a frequent cleaning, frequent sweeping. So it will mark like what all objects are there. So first it will go to the Eden space, whatever newly built objects are there, it will go to the Eden space, and then it will go to the survivor space if after few cleaning it there are still instances pointing to that. And then if after few more after few more sweeping, like if there are certain instances pointing to that, then it will go to old generation space. So like that it is being working internally.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've like explained all the different types of memory and all, right? So whenever sometimes we used to get the memory out of error and such kind of issues in prod environments, in higher environments where we used to have the huge amounts of data, right? So in such cases, like how you are going to fix that, or like what are the precautions or preventive steps we need to take care of it, like while doing our coding? So, do you ever encounter that kind of scenario, Abhijit?
Basically, one time I've seen. So this type of issues come when we are making use of collection classes and we are putting static for that. So static access modifier, if I'm putting that it after completion of the code, still till the JVM is on, and, it will be there in the memory. So it creates memory leak issue. And when we are using try with catch, and when we are opening any resource and we are not closing it, so that also creates memory leak actually. So it's preferable to make use of try with resources, so that it automatically closes the resource after execution is completed. And query optimization we need to see, like we are if we are making use of pagination or we are calling the repository, then if we should not put it in a loop and again calling, because it's like a very costly operation and it occupies space in the heap as well. So we should take care of that it should not go out of memory by calling it in a loop. So it's advisable that we should do the query as much minimum as possible, and we should make use of the data by getting all data at once.
Yeah. Then we'll move on to Spring, Abhijit. Okay, so you've used the Spring Boot, right? So, what are the different scopes we have in Spring, and can you explain like when we go for that, which kind of scope and all?
uh, yeah, so it is singleton is there, then prototype is there, then request session and global session, these are the type of scopes. So singleton this spring is by default singleton in nature. So as many times you hit it, it will create it will return the same instance again and again. So if I want that for every hit, every request hit, I want to get a new instance to get created, so we can add this prototype there. So we can add with the help of annotation. So if I'm writing at the red scope and passing values as prototype, so every time you hit that endpoint, it will give you new request again and again. And there is a request is there. So so for every HTTP request hit you are doing, so it will create the instance and will return back. So during the session, there is one more there session, then the session will get created, and within that session there is an HTTP request which is getting generated, and it is getting tracked, like during that particular session it is being handled or not, that entire flow, and during that session it is that scope will be applicable. So yeah. And
Okay. Yeah.
mhm.
Okay. Fine then. Yeah. We used to create the beans, right? So beans gets created in the sprint. So what is the life cycle of a bean once it gets created till the time it is going to destroy or something, right?
Yeah, first
What are
being
the different phases of it? Hmm.
yeah, actually first bean get instantiated, then actually during the runtime there is a component scanning occurs. So by spring container it checks actually which and all classes are eligible for scanning for components. So as soon as it finds like these are the components which we can auto wire, so it will create the object for those classes at runtime, and then it auto wires the dependencies. So there is an inversion of control happens. So dependency injection is being done by Spring Container, and then after doing the dependency injection, it checks like all the requirements is being fulfilled or not. So if like all the requirement is fulfilled, object is being created. Then after that, so there is a post construct as well. So after creation of object, it will handle all the functionalities after that. So after creation of object, and then there is a destroy method. So object will get destroyed.
Okay. So, while we are working on the Spring Boot, when we are implementing Spring Boot to build our applications, right? We used n number of annotations, right?
Yeah.
So, in that annotations, like, what is the at the rate bean, whether it is a method level or class level annotation?
At the rate bin is at a method level basically.
So, how you are saying that like it's a method level annotation?
Yeah, because address bean is basically telling the Spring containers explicitly that this particular uh, class method is being eligible for bean creation. So basically, address bean is being used along with the address configuration, so that for configuring a special feature and giving some different kind of logic which you don't want container to create it, and you want to write your own logic in that class. So you can configure it explicitly by writing address bean method level in a configuration class.
So, even we have at the rate a path variable, right? So what is the use of path variable at the rate path variable in Spring?
Yeah, means
Okay.
with the help of path variable, we can pass the dynamic data from the request. So let's suppose from request we are passing some URL slash API slash ID. So that ID you are putting it in uh, for dynamic showing. You can put it in curly braces ID, but from UI or from request postman you are passing like 101. So that will be handled as a dynamic value, and then you can access it with the help of path variable in the request parameter. So in a method parameter, you can pass that at the rate path variable, and you can have that ID.
Mhm. Okay. What are the different Spring security features are available in place?
There are various type of securities like JWT authentication is there. So we can add our own security, like we can have dependency like Spring Boot security. We can add it in the pom.xml file, and then we can have a class configuration class which will be having at the rate enable web security. We can have annotation on top of it, and then can have a class which extends web security configuration adapter, and then you can override a method configure method, and then within that you can have parameter http security, and with the help of that reference you can actually give access to a particular user. With the help of ant matchers you can give the URL, and then you can provide the access, like which all user you want to give the access, like user access or admin access. You can provide that for that URL. So like that we can
Okay.
do.
Okay. Yeah. So then you have coming to the web services you have used Rust you mentioned, right? So have you do you have any idea about SOAP also? Or then-
Actually, I haven't got chance to work on SOAP. I've mainly worked upon JSON and REST APIs. So
Okay. So coming to REST, so what are the disadvantages of using REST?
uh,
I mean, so what are the drawbacks of using REST?
I think it's a little bit complex to understand in the initial phase, because there are a lot of annotations that we have to understand, and to handle the request and number of requests we need to do a lot of configuration. So we need to be aware of what all configuration we need to do beforehand. It's before going to go to deployment and sending the request. We should have to do all form of configuration. So we should know what all configurations are required to be done before.
And especially like it is stateless, right?
Yeah, it's a stateless. It doesn't hold a state. It means for every request it will be unique. So once the response is given, then again it will send a request. It will be a new request.
So then Hibernate, you mentioned that you've used the Hibernate, right? So if you want to deal with the multiple databases, how you are going to configure it?
Uh, in long back I've done. So we have to add a configuration in the YAML file. We can add the configuration for both databases, and then for both we have to provide configuration like spring.datasource.url username host password we have to provide for both. And then after that we have to implement configuration manager, entity manager factory we have to implement. And then we have to uh, provide a condition like based on what condition you want to use the first table, and when you will go for using second table, that configuration you have to give, and then you can
Mhm.
access
Okay.
it. I'm exactly not remembering those steps.
Okay. Fine. And so whenever we want to do some rollback of a transaction, how you will be doing that rollback uh,
Yeah,
transaction?
actually in distributed transaction we can have a rollback mechanism. So we can have annotation like a direct transaction. Within that we can write a rollback for equal to exception dot class. So with the help of that, actually we can have it at a class level or we can have it at a method level. So when you are having at a transaction, it just sees that over a class. If you are writing, it will check within the class there are n number of methods. So it will see like all those method data has been saved in DB or not. If there is any exception, so while saving the data or there is some issue, so it will roll back all the changes which has been done in that particular class. So it is helpful in that sense.
You mentioned some vulnerabilities and all, right? So do you have an idea of like what is CSRF and what is CORS?
Yeah, it's a cross-site request forgery. So CSRF. So basically, it happens at the URL level. So in the request URL, whenever you are writing sensitive data or a specific URL which is not encrypted, and then any hacker can come and they can change that URL, and they can redirect it to another URL. So that is actually cross-site request forgery. And
Mhm. What is CORS?
yeah, it's cross origin resource sharing. So uh, it is with respect to sharing of resources, and we have to enable it explicitly in our Spring Boot. Not able to remember that annotation. There was one
Yeah,
annotation of use.
fine. Okay, fine. So then coming to like whenever we want to deal with any error handling, exception handling in the REST framework, so how you implement that error handling for your application?
For that, actually, there are multiple ways we have used. So we have made use of try catch also, and we have made use of throws also, where we are throwing it back to the controller during app dynamics to be implemented there. And we have also done through REST controller advice as well. So we have created one class called REST controller advice, and then we have added the method which is containing the exception data, like exception message, exception ID, and data regarding that. So we are storing it in a map format, storing the message and the data, and then we are returning it from where it is getting called. So we are providing with the annotation at the rate exception handler over that method. And then before actually giving the response back to the client, it actually checks and go through that exception handler rest control advice class if there is an exception. Otherwise, it will give the response as it is. So we can throw it from a class if you want to call any method, or else if you want to throw globally, like let's suppose we haven't handled few exceptions, so we can have global exception handler method. We can have throws exception. So any other kind of exception is coming, it will be handled there. So like that we have done.
Okay. So can you please share your screen, Darjit?
Yeah.
and open any online compiler or something if you have them.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, yeah, I'm able to see your screen. Okay, okay, not the notepad. If you have any online compiler, can you please open the online compiler?
Let me go to online because it is little slow.
Yeah, that is also fine. If you have anything in your local, which is
Mm-hmm.
already downloaded, any tool, Eclipse or something.
Okay.
A list of objects, something like customized objects, some employee or student kind of objects, not the integer.
Okay.
So use Java 8 to convert that list of employee objects to the map of employee objects.
Yeah. So let me add it to the list once. Yeah, we have created in the form of key value pair.
Okay. So here I have a requirement that I have a these employees are like um, from different departments. So, for example, I have a department property also for this employee, and then I want a list of employees, those who are working in HR department. So, can you make the changes and show me?
Department. Okay. So do you want me to add department here only in employee?
Yeah, however you want to do, but I have a like combination of. I've provided a list with a list of all the employees who are working in different departments, but my output should contain only the employees working in HR department.
Okay.
So Raj is from HR and then Dev is from some finance department or accounts department. So
Okay.
you can have a couple more employees from HR and account also, like or else like two more from. So, but finally, my hash map should contain only the employees from the HR department.
Yeah, like this it's coming.
Okay, so we've listed both segregated.
Yeah, you have to put condition over here. Sure, okay.
So using Java 8, we can do that filter, right? So why you are adding a if condition here?
Yeah, yeah, it came.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So and you mentioned that you have experience in microservices and AWS also, right?
Yeah, in AWS I haven't got much chance actually because there was a separate team who is handling Azure part. So I was there in that
Mhm.
team, but there is no hands-on experience. Like I was there with the team to check like what all things are going on.
Okay. Then microservices, you have experience, right?
Yes, yes.
Have you worked on any applications, or it's like only theoretical experience do you have?
No, no, I have worked with microservices in the project actually.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. So then, what is resiliency?
Uh, Resilience actually it is it checks whether that microservice is scalable or not, and it is it is being able to handle a lot of data or millions of data or not properly. So for that sake, we can see the resilience for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what do you mean by vertical scalability and horizontal scalability?
Uh, Horizontal scaling means when we are adding multiple instances of same type which contains the same configuration and all. So basically it will be useful when there are a lot of records needs to be handled. So with one instance it will not be possible to handle those many records of data. So each and every instances will be assigned with a specific set of tasks. So in that scenario we can do horizontal scaling, and for vertical scaling actually there will be one system and we can't create multiple instance of that. Rather we can increase the configuration in the existing space. So we can increase the memory, we can increase the CPU holding capacity so that it manages lots of data, but the system will be one only. We are not creating multiple instances of that node.
Okay, so increasing memory or the computing power is comes under vertical.
Yes,
Okay,
it means RAM configuration on all
okay,
those configurations and CPU usage feature we have to add. So we are adding more features into that existing space.
okay. So then, so have you heard about S3? Okay.
Yeah, Amazon S3 is there, which is used basically for storage purpose. So it is having 99.99%. They're like 16 nines of durability is there, which stores data for a longer period of time, and
Mm-hmm. Okay.
it is
So,
basically used for
what is the
storage.
different S3 policies?
S3 policies. That I don't remember actually as of now.
Okay. Okay. Uh, that's fine. So then at least what is the differences between a web service and microservice? So you worked both on web services and microservices, right? How exactly you define microservice and a web service?
Web service actually it is a form where there is a JAX RS is being used, and then it is handling the data as per the request being sent, and it manages the endpoints properly. But there will be like multiple issues it may come for handling the web services. So First of all, we have to handle it through adding proper XML configuration. That all things needs to be done. For microservice, actually, there will be like a proper load balancer which balances the load across multiple instances of the microservice. There will be like a service registry which registers all the microservice, and it can monitor what all changes has been done, so that it will be helpful while doing the scaling. And if there is like multiple instances, and we have to make use of only few instances, not all instances, then we can actually do scale down for that, so that few instances can be used. And if there is like big billion days coming, a lot of hits are going to come in that time, then we can actually scale it up. And then in that scenario, it can able to handle lots of data. And there are various design patterns are used in microservice actually, like circuit breaker design pattern, Saga design pattern. Actually, it streamlines the entire process.
Okay, so you mentioned Saga design pattern, right? So have you used the Saga design pattern, and can you explain like what is Saga design pattern exactly?
Yeah, actually, it helps us to resolve the issues with the distributed transaction. So whenever the transaction gets distributed across multiple microservices, there were possible issues with the rollback mechanism, or whenever data is getting saved in DB, but we need to make changes into that. So that changes were not being done before. So to resolve those issues, actually, there came an event triggering mechanism with Saga design pattern. So it will have a success event and failure event, and it gets notified as per the corresponding set of microservices. So let's suppose it start with the food order microservice. So food gets created, that microservice is there, then payment microservice is there, then notification microservice is there. So at each instance of clearing that microservice response, it will generate one success event. And if all the events get success, then only the entire process will be marked as successful. So if at any instance it got failed due to any reason, the entire flow will get rolled back. So yeah, so there is an event based
Okay,
process.
so if, as you mentioned, like if something goes wrong in any one of the system and the transaction failed and it didn't success, so like whether that transaction will proceed further or how it will.
No, along with that, all the operations that were being managed, so all those data will be going further if everything is fine. Transaction was one of the process inside that. So based upon the event getting triggered, which is success or failure, based upon that only it will decide whether it will go further or it will go back. So basically, there will
Okay.
be like a broker kind of thing will be there, which will help in communicating between the two microservices. So, but in case of orchestrator design pattern, there will be like a one point of contact will be there. So that only decides like what data will be going to which microservice and what microservice needs to do what. So that will be the command point basically, and that is also one only point of failure. So if that gets failed, then entire service can become failed.
So then coming to testing, so we used to write JUnits, and then we used to do unit testing as part of our development, right? But apart from that unit testing, writing JUnits, so did you ever work on any other types of testing to I mean to select to measure or perform to know that like performance or if your application is good or is everything like whatever you want to ensure that like your application is good in when it goes to production, right? So did
Yeah.
you work on
So
any other types of testing?
uh, specific to tool, we have made use of app dynamic to see like if the alerts are being raised properly or not, and we
Mm-hmm.
are monitoring all those test cases. We are making some sonar cube plugins installed, so we can monitor that in that the
Mm-hmm.
specific URL. There we can go and check the check marks report, and how much coverage is being there. So there we can check the critical vulnerabilities, high level and medium level vulnerabilities, and then we are going to resolve that and increase the coverage. So
How you are using the AppD?
yeah, in one of the project past, yeah, I have worked on app dynamics.
Okay, so what you are going to do in AppD?
Actually, in AppD, it is for setting up the alert that can be
Mm-hmm.
sent over mail, to a particular lead. So we were not having access to send mail to ourselves for testing purpose. So there were lead assigned. So we can trigger that based upon the conditions. So there is a specific website that we have to go there, and we have to do all the configuration. But we have to write logic on that. Like if this condition gets failed, and then we have to trigger that. So basically in code we are doing the configuration for that in the controller class. So we were told actually to throw all the exception till controller class, so that it will get handled and it will be raised, alert will be raised. So for monitoring
Mhm.
purpose it will be helpful. So there we have used.
Okay, so you have any idea about cucumber testing, that in BDD scenarios?
We have not made use of that actually. In Mockito and JUnit only we have
Okay,
made use of.
okay, okay. Yeah, no issues. So then, so what are the different methodologies you've used for the SDLC software development lifecycle? Is it Agile or how many types of models you worked on?
Uh, yeah, so basically we have worked upon like domain-driven development and test-driven development as well.
No, no, no.
So
I'm not asking
uh,
about that one. So the methodology you worked, is it a waterfall methodology for
agile methodology we have basically
implementation?
used.
Agile.
Yeah.
Okay, so Agile. So we do have different Agile ceremonies, right? So what are the different Agile ceremonies?
Agile ceremonies in the sense, uh, so every day like we were assigned with the unit test stories and the task assigned with the points, and then we were having daily
So
calls.
you mentioned assign tasks and story points, right? So
Yes.
in order to derive that story points for each story, like how many points we should give, so that on what basis you will decide? Like, is there any specific method or any strategy you follow for assigning the points to the stories?
Initially, if they are giving us time to go through the stories, because initial level we were not getting much time to go through the entire story, then we have to assign the story point. So basically, they were creating a group, those who are experienced as well as those who are newly joined to that project. So we were discussing it all together, and we are discussing the complexity that may have. So based upon the discussion, we come to a common conclusion like this: your story will be assigned with this much story point. And after going, if the story is assigned to us after going through the user story, if we think that it may take more time or it is little bit more complex, then we can add it a little 1 or 2 points more based upon the complexity.
Okay, yeah. Yes, that's right. Okay, so I'm done from my end, Darjeet. So, do you have any questions to me?
So basically, what kind of project is currently going on at Emphasis?
Yeah, it is not specific to any one of the account. Actually, it's for all the accounts, like on a general category. They're looking for this position. So,
Okay.
it's a kind of yeah, development projects only.
Okay.
Where
Okay.
do we have this Spring Boot and microservices,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Okay.
Especially,
Got it. Yeah.
yeah, REST. So these are the main technologies we are focusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we have the AWS and microservices, it's like added advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
there we are looking. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got
Any
it.
other things, Gurjit?
No, as of now, this was only my question.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so much.
joining. We'll get
Thank you.
back to you,
Okay.
Gurjit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.